Hello, everybody, and a warm welcome back to everybody watching. Sorry, there's been a bit of a time lapse from the episode 2 to tonight's episode 3. I think everybody's found the recent times busy and hectic with work and just other commitments. So we can only apologise for being so long, but we're back, and I'm joined by Alan and Wilf. How you doing, boys?
Hi,
I'm good, thank you. I'm sorry, I've just realised we're live. I didn't realise we were going live tonight. I'd have done my hair.
Sorry.
Oh, he's blundered.
It's live record, isn't it? It's record only. It's a record, don't worry, it's okay. It's not live.
I panicked there for a second.
No, we're just recording, it's okay. But no, as I say,
I was very nearly doing this in a suit. I'm fucking glad I got changed.
No, as I say, we've all had various commitments over the last wee while, and games and away fixtures and unit trips, so it's been a bit tiresome trying to get everybody on one night, but we've managed tonight. So we'll pick up from where we left off, which was the New Year derby away to Celtic. And I think, Wolf, if I remember rightly, we had a really good run just before that, didn't we?
Yeah, that Celtic one was the seventh win in a row, which was it's very unlike Rangers to go like a 7-match winning run that side of New Year, because it's normally after New Year that we kick on. Yeah. Until they brought in a stupid winter break, because we never can't kick our own arse after that now. But yeah, back then we were sort of always hanging in near the top, and then New Year came and we just put the foot down and motored on. But yeah, that was 7 wins in a row, culminating in that 3-1 win over them, and John Brown's absolute fucking howitzer right at the end of the game.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Alan,
unfortunately, it wasn't going to last.
No, but I mean, as Wolf was saying there, Alan, it was a good run, and as Wolf correctly says, historically we've been pretty poor over the festive, but then we motored on after New Year, so it was a fine change to have a good run just before the festive period and over the festive period.
Yeah, it was. It's the festive. We talk about the festive period a lot in modern football. It's it's so hectic with the European group stages coming to a close and cup football. I think back in the early 90s it might not have been so hectic, but to certainly go in that kind of winning form throughout December and early into January. It didn't last long into January, but early into January was certainly a good building platform for the second half of the season.
Yeah. And as Wolf correctly said, the 7-game run or 8-game run came to an abrupt halt at, would that have been Broomfield batting that day, Wolf?
That would still have been Broomfield then, yep.
Yeah, 0-0 away to Airdrie. I think that would be just a game to forget, because I don't really remember much on that one.
Bizarrely, it's a ground I never ever visited.
Was it?
It was, aye. I don't know how it managed to pass me by, but Broomfield always managed to pass me by. I don't know why.
Probably the last place in Scotland that we or anybody else would have expected that winning run to come to a stop, actually.
Because I think Airdrie at that time, I mean, they were a bit of a yo-yo club, let's be honest, weren't they? They were maybe hung on 1 year and then went down the next, didn't they, Alan?
Yeah, they had a decent season that year. We'll talk about them, a couple of times throughout when we're talking about this season. But they finished 7th in the league, which is pretty respectable for Airdrie at the time, without being disrespectful to them. Scottish Cup finalists. I think they put Celtic out the League Cup as well.
Yeah.
Because they were Scottish Cup finalists, qualified for the Cup Winners' Cup.
That's right.
So that's they had a pretty decent season. And if you're looking at some of the names that are that played with them at the time, it's household names to fans of Scottish football. Probably not outside Scottish football, but people like Al Lawrence, Owen Coyle, Kenny Black, Davy Kirkwood. So people that are they're well known within the Scottish game, so they had a decent side. But yeah, this was probably one of their better seasons and one of their best seasons. But still a shock that we couldn't go there and get a result.
Yeah, and I mean,
on top, sorry, Brian. On top of those players, they had a decent front line. They had Andy Smith, who comes from up here in Aberdeen, and Nipper Lawrence, who did a wee turn at Hearts, as I remember, as well, before he went to Airdrie. And obviously, the manager was a very old Alec McDonald.
That's right.
Yeah.
Who was did a decent job as a manager,
Yeah.
And as Alan says, I mean, they finished 7th, which is more than respectable for Airdrie.
Yeah, very much. I mean, Big Oleg was sent off in this game, which, I mean, two bookings in 3 minutes. I mean, allegedly he was one of the best defenders in Europe, and he's getting sent off for 2 tackles in 3 minutes.
Yeah, but they were both tackles on Alan Lawrence. He was one of these.
Careful.
He was one of these narky little bastards who he wasn't called Nipper for no reason.
Wasn't shy and going down easy.
Well, the very fact his name was not even so much that. I wouldn't even label him with that. I mean, he was known as Nipper Lawrence because he had no problem at all nipping in about the ankles of centre halves. Just kind of trying to noise them up and just trying to, just be a pest. And he knew the way to go. So I would imagine that. I don't remember, but I imagine the second time Oleg probably would just turn and just both of them because he was absolutely hacked off of them. He was that type of the sort of player that if he's in your team, you think he's great. And if he's playing against you, you think, who is this irritating little shit? You know what I mean?
But no, nonetheless, a poor result after a good run, 0-0 away to Airdrie. Now, I've totally forgot about this fact at this Hibs game, Wolf. You'll maybe remember better than me, do you?
Yeah, Tom Sutherland.
Yeah. Was this the Terry Waite situation?
Was he a diplomat? I think he was a diplomat or whatever. And he had a wee spell with Rangers back just after the Second World War.
Yeah.
And he was kidnapped by, was it jihadi extremists or something, and he was held captive somewhere in the Middle East for.
Was this with Terry Waite?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, he was with Terry Waite. Yeah. Terry Waite was obviously the famous one because he was the Archbishop of Canterbury's special envoy.
Yes.
And he was the one that got all the publicity. But when Tom Sutherland got released in '91, Rangers brought him back because he played. He never played. I don't think he ever played for the first team. He got released after a couple of months or whatever, back in the late 40s. But I remember I can still see him in my mind's eye standing in the middle of the pitch in his suit, swinging a Ranger scarf round his head. Yeah. When they brought him out, which I thought was a fantastic thing to do.
Yeah.
Nobody knew who the guy was. Because as I say, Terry Waite got all the plaudits. But I actually remember that more than I remember anything about the game.
This came up on Rangers Twitter a couple of months ago. Tom Sutherland, I don't know if it was when he died or an anniversary of his death. It's certainly, I remember it coming up on Rangers Twitter not that long ago, probably this side of the year. And that was fresh in my memory because of that.
But a nice touch nonetheless. And I think this was, according to the notes, it was Paul Rideout's first game for Rangers, Alan, signed from Notts County. Yeah,
kind of a player that you forget about. Every time you hear his name, you go, "Oh yeah, he played for Rangers." But he's the type of player that unless somebody else says his name, you tend not to remember him. Quite a forgettable spell at Rangers.
Yeah,
I know he went on. He won the FA Cup with Everton later in his career, but he came in. In the end, it didn't cost us any really much money because we sold him for the same money that we brought him in for. So I don't know, largely forgettable. I can't really say I've got any memories of Paul Rideout, to be perfectly honest.
No, I think that's pretty fair, Wolf, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, Rideout didn't play a lot. I seem to remember, did he score a winner in a cup final for Everton after he left us? I'm sure he did.
That's what Alan said.
Sure he did.
He certainly played in the final, I don't know.
I'm sure he scored a winner in an FA Cup final for them, or scored in a cup final. I don't pay that much attention to Everton, but yeah, he was like, so he's one of these players. As soon as somebody mentions him, you go, "Oh yeah, Paul Rideout." If somebody said to you, "Who did Rangers sign from Notts County for 500k?" You'd be like, "Nah, don't know."
I'll tell you what, Wolf, I'll put that in this year's quiz.
We're not having that again. I'm doing my hair that night.
But I think this is a common theme, Wolf. Dale Gordon and McCoy are getting on the goal scoring charts this season, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean everybody remembers McCoy as being the goal scorer, but I mean Disco Dale knew the way to go. And if he wasn't scoring them, he was making them. I mean, he's one of these greatly underrated players because he wasn't really here for that long. You know
No.
what I mean, he got flipped away quite quickly. But yeah, Dale Gordon did a great turn for us. Scored a number of crucial goals for us.
Yeah. I think, Alan, this was an even more significant game because we won this game and Hearts got really done over by Aberdeen at Tynecastle, and that put us top of the league on goal difference. When we were hounding Hearts for a long time trying to catch up with them, and we just couldn't. We even went on that 7-8 game run and we still didn't catch them. So that was a significant weekend, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think after the previous week, us going on that 7-game run, and then Hearts would have been looking over their shoulders at us, and I think that the previous week after drawing at Airdrie, they might have been a little bit relieved, and thought they had a real chance here, but we go back to winning ways the following week against Hibs, and they absolutely blew it on their own patch. Against Aberdeen, so really significant. This is when the tide really turns in our favour.
Yeah.
We go top of the league. It's only in goal difference at this point, but we're still top of the league. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And then on we go at home against Motherwell, and again McCoist is back in the goals, and Mikhailichenko's chipping in now. So it's although McCoist is scoring a lot, there's other people are chipping in though.
Yeah, we all know McCoy scored a lot of goals during this period, but when we're looking through it, when we're preparing for this and we're looking through our notes, it's the same names that are coming up all the time.
Yeah.
For chipping in with goals and big performances, and Mikhailichenko was one of them. And we've said it in previous episodes, and we'll reiterate it again, just how good Mikhailichenko could be when he wanted to be, when he didn't want to turn up, he never turned up. But how good he could be, and how much better he could have been if it wasn't for this 3-4 rule at the time. Because no doubt that would have cut his time at Rangers short. But tremendous player. He's one of the players for the time period that I really remember. I do have good memories of, and it's it's great to see players like that getting on the score sheet. And it's probably a wee bit of relief for McCoist as well, because as we have learned in very, very recent weeks, if when we rely too heavily on one player, it can all go a bit pear-shaped. So, probably a bit of relief for Walter Smith and for Alan McCoist that other players are reliable as well to turn up and get in the score sheet and help the team out and do the bit to get the points.
Absolutely. And, I mean, more significantly, Alan, there, we won 19 from the last 20 points-wise. Since St Mirren beat us. So I mean, it was a really good period, even though that we dropped points against Airdrie. It was it was still a great run, wasn't it?
Yeah, when they're the kind of numbers you're picking up and the stats that you're picking up, there's just absolutely no arguing with it, and it's the form of champions. So I'm not saying the league was a foregone conclusion at this point, but I think anybody that liked a bet would have been quite safe putting their money on Rangers.
It also helped, Brian, that Hearts followed up their 4-0 mauling by Aberdeen by going to Broomfield and getting beat. So that helped us as well. Put us clear at the top.
I think that's that kind of backs up what you guys were saying about Airdrie season. That season, they actually were a really half decent side that season. They could cause people problems because they drew against us, and then they took all 2 points against Hearts. So obviously Airdrie were half decent.
But we're looking at that. It would seem, without looking too far into Airdrie, we don't want this to be an Airdrie podcast, but not without looking too far into Airdrie's results that season, they took a point off us. They took at least 2 points off Hearts, so they must have been dropping points to some of the absolute dirge in the league as well. They'll only finish 7th, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I mean, how often does that happen in Scotland? You'll get.
Yeah.
Well, look at this season. You've got Dundee taking points off of some of the teams at the top of the table. I mean, Dundee this season beat Hearts. They drew with Celtic. We've struggled against them, and they're languishing at the bottom of the table.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just you couldn't make it up sometimes. It's just bizarre.
Yeah.
For Airdrie to draw with us and then a couple of weeks later beat Hearts, that was the top 2 in the league.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And now this I remember quite well. Up in your neck of the woods, Wolf, a Scottish Cup away game up to Aberdeen, and we come away with a good 1-0 win. I mean, as we've spoke about the Soonest Revolution and this Walters Way, Wolf, there's not too many times we go up to Aberdeen and come away with a result, is there?
No, I mean it's always a difficult place. It's still a difficult place to come, even though Aberdeen aren't very good. You know, they always make it difficult because they've got it in their head that that we're their rivals, so they always try hard. You know what I mean? It's, you know, their rivals are really Cove Rangers. The way they're going, they'll be playing them in a couple of seasons. You know what I mean? Down in the Championship, which would be quite nice. While Cove are on their way to the Premiership and Aberdeen are heading down to League One, but that's maybe just wishful thinking. But yeah, it's always difficult. But I mean, a cup tie at Pittodrie, they would have fancied it. Rangers go up there, McCoy scores a goal. Game that was moved to midweek for the TV, but wasn't put on the TV. It was one of those bizarre situations.
Do you know?
Sky as was at the time shifted the game and they couldn't screen it. Mental.
Yeah. Do you know when we were looking into this and I was reading about this? This is a story that wouldn't be out of place in Scottish football in 2022. No. Sky B, as they were at the time, as Wolf says, move the game for television, move it from the Saturday to the Wednesday night. And was it the League of Ireland objected to it?
Yep.
So there was a blackout. So Sky recorded the match, never showed it live, never showed the recording, and the Rangers fans the majority of Rangers fans from the Central Belt had to travel up to Aberdeen on a Wednesday night for no reason whatsoever. They'd be as well keeping it on the Saturday. Do you know, it just wouldn't look at a place this in 2022, would it?
Yeah. I think the only thing that we can say about this game is we win 1-0 with a McCoy's goal, funnily enough, but if Brian Irvin doesn't actually manage to score against us.
Well, he'd Aberdeen's only chance of the game, though.
Oh. Yeah. How many times have we mentioned him over this couple of series and he's scored against us?
If it wasn't him, it was that big Diddy Brian Grant. It was one of the two of them, you know what I mean? Just all the time. I don't know why Aberdeen bother playing strikers against us. Just put the two of them up front.
But no, it was I remember the goal, Alan. It was I wouldn't say it was quite unlike McCoy's, but I mean it was a fair swivel from the edge of the box, wasn't it?
Yeah, I was going to say unlike McCoy's, you mean it was outside the penalty area?
Aye, yeah.
Again, I don't really have too many strong memories of it, but I do remember. I don't really remember the goal, but I do remember putting Aberdeen out the Scottish Cup, and you know they seem to have it in their head that we're our rivals, as Wolf said. So you know, just beating them just to rub that in and show that we're streaks ahead of them at any point. I just love beating Aberdeen. They do make it difficult for us. The 4 times they play us in league a season, 3 of course this season. But the 4 times they play us, that's their 4 cup finals. So
yeah, you know,
just to put them out of cup and to beat them in the league and just remind them that, you know, they might think we're their big rivals. They're absolutely nothing to us. Nothing.
Yeah. I mean, they were rivals that one season when they were going for the league and the season before actually. But
and even that was 30 years ago.
Yeah. So if we go down to Gorgie, and this is a top of the table clash, obviously, and we come away with another McCoy's goal, another 1-0 win, but very crucial.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the notes here, it's no wonder Hearts were up towards the top of the table because that's a hell of a team they had.
Was that Ian Ferguson that played for us in the early 80s?
Yes.
Aye.
Yes. The one with the 2 eyes.
Yes. But, I mean, that's 2 good results on the bounce there. Away to Aberdeen in the cup and then away to Hearts in the league.
Yeah, I mean the Hearts game was crucial. Obviously, top of the table clash. It would put us a wee bit further clear at the top. But I mean, as I say, looking at their team managed by Joe Jordan, which a lot of people forget that he was manager of Hearts for a while. Mm-hmm. You know, and my Hearts supporting girlfriend absolutely despises the man. And I found out why she despises him. I think I mentioned this previously. The reason she despised him is that he got rid of Scott Crabbe from Hearts, and he was Carol's favourite. So Jordan, although Crabbe did play this day, we beat him at Tynecastle this day. I'm just reading the notes here. John Brown sorts out Scott Crabbe early doors. I like that.
I think for this game as well. I mean, by this point of the season, we're 2 points ahead of Hearts. We've got a slightly better goal difference. So this is, Hearts are probably going to throw everything at this game, thinking to themselves,
Yes.
we need to beat Rangers, we need to draw level in points, we need to close that goal difference down a little bit. So for us to take the points, again, massive psychological blow for Hearts. Again, we're getting into February, the season's marching on. We've been here before, we've challenged for titles before, we've won titles before. This team, this squad, Hearts haven't. So psychologically, the league really is, you could probably say at this point, the league's pretty much going to be in the bag. Again, without being disrespectful to Hearts, who probably would still fancied it themselves, but psychologically, the league's finished at this point.
I think Alan nails that in the head, Wolf, doesn't he?
He does. It was also a typical Ali McCoy's performance. I mean, he scores a thunderbolt, a right foot volley, and then a couple of minutes later misses an absolute sitter. You know what I mean? It's just typical McCoy. You know what I mean? Give him one. To use the one the kids are all on about these days with the old XG, which I don't fully understand, but I'd imagine the XG for the one he scored was probably really, really low, and the one he missed was probably off the scale. So I mean, go to Gorgie, get the points, and move on. And I mean, this is continual unbeaten run. I mean, that must be now 11, 12, 13 games maybe, in the league. And all we've done is drop that point at Airdrie.
Yeah.
So we were charging on, we're carrying on with what we said earlier, that normally the turn of the year Rangers put the foot down. Just to add that this year we've actually put the foot down about October, which is unusual.
Very much so. So we leave Gorgie with the 2 points, and Alan, we go along to the old Love Street. So again, familiar goal scorers in McCoist and Mikhailchenko, but again, another win, and it's racking up the points, isn't it?
Yeah, as you say, the same names keep, as we spoke about, the same names keep coming up. McCoist, Mikhailchenko. The more I think back to Mikhailchenko, the more I think, wow, what a player he was and what a player he could have been. He's just absolutely incredible for us. I think we scored our 2 goals quite early on here, didn't we?
Mm-hmm.
Rangers go 2 up in 23 minutes, so I'm pretty much in cruise control. But typical Rangers, we go a couple of goals up and we take the foot off the gas. But yeah, probably comfortable in the end. Beat them 2-1, yes, and Mirren got their goal back. But we get the points again, and Hearts won that day, but it doesn't really matter what Hearts are doing, as long as we're winning, then we're comfortable.
I mean, I'll take this to both of you, but I've just been looking back at I think it was the previous 3 or 4 games. I could have went further back, but it was a familiar back 5 of Gorham, Stevens, David Robertson, Gough and Brown. Gough and Brown were the centre pairings. So obviously, either there was injuries or they just preferred Gough and Brown. But I think to have a settled back 5 is crucial, isn't it?
Well, having a run like we were having, why would you change it? We're not losing a lot of goals. We're losing very, very few goals. We're winning games. We've only dropped that 1 point at Broomfield. So why would you change what you've got at the back stopping the goal scorer?
Yeah. But I mean, it's just nice to see that. I mean, I don't know if you guys agree. I like to have as settled a back 5 as possible to get the continuity and the understanding there. Alan, would you?
Yeah, I'm the same. I don't know if it's an old-fashioned view of football. I don't know if it belongs in the 90s and maybe the early 2000s, but I'm the same. I like a settled back 5. I know modern football, we see a lot of rotations and, play different players for different kinds of games, and that, for me, settled back 5, and as Wolf says, you're not losing goals, you're not losing games. Why would you change that? Why would you tinker with it? Football people tend to be superstitious people. So if it's no broke, don't fix it.
Definitely. And we go at home to Motherwell, and the big Russian Mikhailchenko again with 2 goals in the Scottish Cup. And, Motherwell, it says that another tough time. I mean, was Motherwell tough, Wolf, at this stage?
The fact that David Cooper was playing for them, it was never going to be a picnic in this Coop. I mean, much as he was a Rangers man, he never shocked his responsibility when he played against us.
No.
I mean, I remember, in fact, I distinctly remember him scoring against us once and celebrating like he just won the league. You know what I mean? He was,
Yeah.
well, that was the mark of the man. But no, Motherwell
Took the
toughed up
lead.
the cracks. Scottish Cup, you know, two goals from Chenks after going a goal down to the late Phil O'Donnell. He scored for them. First goal of the game, and fortunately, Chenk stepped up and did the business for us.
I think we've got to remember that at this point, Motherwell were the cup holders.
I was about to say, was this about the time they won the cup? Yeah.
Yeah, they won
the cup
they won it in 91. So, realistically, Motherwell, they're not going to challenge for the league title. So, to try and hold on to that Scottish Cup would have been everything for them. I spent a bit of time living in Motherwell, and so I knew a lot of Motherwell supporters, and I can tell you that even up to the last few years and probably beyond since I left the town, for Motherwell Football Club, the Scottish Cup means absolutely everything.
Yeah.
As it should, the National Cup competitions should mean a lot to clubs, and it should mean a lot to supporters. But for us, our bread and butter's the league. And whilst Motherwell, they don't want to get relegated and they want to see their team in the top six of the league and maybe challenging for Europe the odd season, but they would give that up in a heartbeat to win the Scottish Cup every year. And they really would have been up for this, and they really would have wanted to win this tie and defend their trophy. So you would, when we were drawn against Motherwell, we probably expected a hard tie. Probably quite grateful that it was at Ibrox, and two good goals from Mikhailichenko, and we go through.
Now, am I right in saying, Wolf, that would have been the keeper Billy Thompson, former of this parish, as you like to say?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
PTSD.
As we keep saying in these things, there's so many former Rangers players scattered around the opposition.
Yeah.
And they always turn it on as well, but it's one of those things when you're team Rangers players do move on, and 99 times out of 100 they do go down in the sort of the clubs that they go to. Very, very few go into a club that's on a bigger stage than Rangers. So most of them come down. You're going to come up against them on a fairly regular basis.
Yeah. So after the Scottish Cup exploits, we go at home to Aberdeen in late February, Alan, and we get Hoystra and Haitley back in the team. It's Willie Miller's managerial debut, and yeah, it was a frustrating day for us, wasn't it?
Yeah, Aberdeen, they probably saw this as a huge result coming to Ibrox and getting away with a point and a clean sheet. Yeah, and Willie Miller, we all know Willie Miller's an Aberdeen legend, so they probably would have been right up for this as well.
Yeah.
The players would have wanted to perform for him. Within sight of Willie Miller's playing days, so he'd have been fired up for this himself. And sometimes, as we said, Aberdeen, they see the Rangers ties as their cup finals, and that's the games they turn up for. So we've always got to expect a difficult game, and they got away with it this time. They got away with the point. And Hearts beating Falkirk at Brockville. What a dump Brockville was. At Brockville, closing the gap to 3 points.
Yeah. That's your favourite ground, isn't it, Wolf? Brockville?
Absolutely. I'm honestly, I can't. I say it all the time. I can't believe that there wasn't a major crowd incident at Brockville. You had to have been there to experience it, but dearie me. It's like something out of deepest, darkest Eastern Europe. It really is. And that's with no respect to deepest, darkest Eastern Europe. Horrific. An absolutely horrific football ground.
Yeah. And then, Wolf, we go back at Airdrie, home to Airdrie, and there's a slight air of revenge in this one after we drew 0-0 with them away.
Yeah, well, it's either that or the fact that we were buoyed by our new 5-year kit deal with Adidas.
Yep.
I mean, a £50 million kit deal with Adidas. Their kits were quite good as well, from what I remember. And £2 million up front. I don't know whether the players thought more money coming our way, and we'll up it a bit. But I mean, Big Haley getting back on song with a hat trick. John Brown getting one, and Paul Rideout coming off the bench to score. You know, this is the sort of thing we should be doing against every time we play teams like Airdrie. You know, it's just the way it should be. Rangers playing Airdrie at home, it should always be 3 goals or more, and 3, 4, 5, 6s, whatever. It should always be that way, always.
And I'm just looking. I mean, when you see some of the teams, Alan, that we were getting placed in amongst with this shirt deal, I mean, you've got AC Milan, PSV Eindhoven, Bayern Munich, Porto, Marseille, Liverpool. I mean, this was a serious kit deal, wasn't it?
Yeah, I remember reading the book A Season to Be Cheerful, which was the story of the 92-93 season. Forgive me, I can't remember who the author is. A couple of years ago, and it spoke about this kit deal. And I'm sure that book mentioned that it was the biggest kit deal in Europe at the time, certainly bigger than Manchester United and Real Madrid. So to put us into that bracket was a real statement of intent. I'm reading the quote at the bottom of the notes. Was that can't be a real quote, is it?
That's what seemed like he's saying. I mean,
did David Murray really say that? The Admiral kit was shoddy. Okay, fair enough.
To be fair, it was shoddy.
It was shoddy. I'm just surprised the chairman would come out and say that. But anyway,
to be true, the shell suit, if you did wash it a few times, the blue did turn.
Yeah.
It's a shame because it was an absolute classic piece of kit. They were really, really, really smart.
They were well designed.
They were really, really cheaply made.
Yeah,
JD will love us speaking about this, Alan, won't he?
Yeah, they were very well designed. That wood effect finish was absolutely tremendous. I loved it. I know JD loves it as well. That's why I mention it. No, but yeah, a huge kit deal that really put us in amongst the elite clubs in Europe. Not for the first time in the early part of the 1990s, and not for the last time in the early part of the 1990s. So yeah, really exciting times.
Yeah, and I mean,
and of course, Paul Rideout's. I'm going to go out on a limb and say Paul Rideout's only goal for Rangers.
Won't be far away. Maybe Wolf will maybe remember one more, but he maybe got one away from home. I can't remember.
Don't think he got many.
No, but I mean, Wolf, 2 penalties in this game.
Yeah, you just got to score them. That win.
That's famous 3 words.
Could you imagine Twitter?
But no, a comfortable win at home to Airdrie, buoyed with the news of the new kit deal. So everything was rosy in Govan that weekend. So we go away to St Johnstone, and it's Scottish Cup quarter final. And Wolf, it's a routine 3-0 win.
Yeah, as I was saying about Airdrie, when we play Airdrie, we should always be scoring a few. Exactly the same for St Johnstone. Maybe not so much when we're at their place, particularly with the state of their park these days. But we shouldn't really be struggling against teams like that. I mean, McCoy's Golf and Haley scoring the goals. You know, when you've got players of that quality up against, okay, St Johnstone were a top flight team, but they weren't all that. You know, just routine stuff. I mean, it's now beginning of March. We've not been beaten since November. You know, that's a hell of a run of victories with a couple of draws thrown in. You know,
yeah.
So yeah, just the bandwagon just kept rolling.
Very much so. So after the quarter-final win to put us into the semi-finals of the Scottish Cup, Alan, we go along to Leith at Hibs, and a Hateley double with a McCoist. Hateley penalty, sorry. McCoy's got the first and Hateley with 2.
Yep, Hateley got 2. His last one was the penalty.
Yeah.
McCoy's got the opening goal. You know, I was just thinking when we were reading that, you know, we've been talking about these different stadiums. Going along to Leith, Easter Road, you know what? See if people think Easter Road is a dump these days. They should have seen it in the 90s.
I've never liked Easter Road. Never liked the place.
No. You know, Easter Road these days, it's one of these stadiums that when you see pictures of it, it looks quite impressive for the level of club Hibs are. It looks like an impressive ground. See when you actually go and visit it, and oh my God, what a dump! But yeah, but you know, we went along there, picked up the 2 points again. Come comfortable victory in the end.
And it's all...
I can't remember when they scored their goal in this game. I can't remember. I can't remember if it was early on or that won't matter because you know it was only a goal. We get the points. We get the 2 points, and we're now well into March and we're still winning, still picking up points. Nobody's beating us. Again, as I said, the league for me is psychologically the league's finished.
Yeah, well, we're now 7 points clear because Aberdeen beat Hearts again. Aberdeen seem to have an Indian side over Hearts. You know what I mean? And I think
that was the big thing in those days. If you got 6-7 points ahead, that was a hell of a lead because you can only pick up one. If a team dropped a point, say, you can only pick up an extra point to catch them up. It wasn't like nowadays you get the 3 points for the win instead of 2. So, 7 points clear with 9 games. As you say, Alan, it's pretty much all done and dusted by that point, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's done for me.
Definitely. So, we go away to Dunfermline. And again, I wouldn't say, well, yeah. I mean, they were 3-0 up in 22 minutes. I dare say it could have been more, Wolf, but a bit of the foot off the gas job there, maybe?
Yes, well, it's just did what we had to do. Big game coming up the following week. Hope with that other lot. I mean, I don't specifically remember this. I would have been there. I don't specifically remember it. But 3 goals up in 22 minutes at a place like East End Park. That should really be finishing 7 or 8.
Yeah.
There's no really any excuses for that. No. I mean, they had Andy Rhodes in goal. You know what I mean? Alan's a better goalie than Andy Rhodes, and I've never seen Alan playing goal. You know what I mean? But again, Mikhailichenko, 2 goals from Chenks.
Yeah.
And Nizzy popping up with the one in the middle. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So, you can't knock that. They pulled a goal back with Scott Leach with about half an hour to go. But it's 2 points and up the road.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm noticing as well that we spoke about that solid back five. That solid back five starts to change round about now. It changed the week before at Hibs. It's changed the week before at Hibs. Richard Gough drops out. I can only assume he'd picked up an injury at that point.
Yeah.
Scott Nisbet comes in. Scott Nisbet gets a goal against Dunfermline, but maybe that change of the back five, a little bit unsettled, not our first choice defence, has an impact on what happens the following week.
The captain as well, of course.
Richard Gough got injured in that Scottish Cup tie in Perth.
Yeah, that's right. So we go at home to the neighbours from the East End, and as it says in the notes, we're first meeting in 2 of 10 days. This was the league game, and we've got the cup semi to come. And we had done pretty well against them in the previous games this season, but unfortunately, Alan, this just didn't quite go to plan, did it?
No, it didn't. 2-0 defeat. Never nice losing to that mob, but particularly Ibrox, particularly when you're chasing a title. And it brings them maybe not into the title picture, but maybe not in the title picture, but I think if we were in their position at that point, we might have thought we were in the title picture. It brings them 7 points behind us in the league. With I'm not sure how many games are left to play at this point. Maybe 10, I think, 9 or 8, something like that. Not a lot anyway. But they've probably got 8 games left to play at this point. So not a lot of points left up for grabs. But I suppose people are entitled to dream. It gives them bragging rights, absolutely. Yeah. But the big game, the big Old Firm game for me comes up, as you say, in a couple of days' time, a few days' time.
Yeah. So, if we go away to St Johnstone, and it's Hateley's back in the goals, and I think more importantly, we've got our familiar back five back together. The gang are back together, so to say.
Richard Gough returns from injury. John Spencer gets a start in this game, as do Geraint and Hoostra. Bizarrely, Mikhailichenko gets stuck on the bench. I know. Still find that quite strange. Amount of goals he was scoring, unless it was just it's only St Johnstone will give him a rest, but they didn't really do that back in the early 90s. They didn't really rotate squads for the sake of rotating squads.
No.
So, but whatever the reason was, that we got away with it. Haley scores 2 goals, and it's 2-1 to Rangers and on to the Scottish Cup semi-final.
I think, Alan, more importantly, Haley gets the 2, but unfortunately he goes down in the last seconds of the game, and he had to get stretchered off.
Yeah, I'd actually forgot about that. I forgot Haley picked up that injury. Do you know what? Is it as good a player as Mark Haley was, and as important as he was, it's probably not as frightening as we might have made it out to be today.
Yes.
If one of your star centre forwards gets injured, because we did have Hustra who could play at centre forward, Mikhailichenko, Dale Gordon, Paul Rideout. We did have options.
Yes.
They weren't as good as Mark Gately in that role we were wanting them to play, but we certainly had the options available. So nothing to panic about, in my opinion.
No. So, guys, I think we'll finish on a nice victory in the semi-final of the Scottish Cup at Hampden. Dale Gordon passes a fitness test late. And this is, again, Wolf, one of the first games that was shown on Sky, wasn't it? Or the B Sky B.
Yeah, Terry Butcher co-coms. I mean, the thing I remember most about this game, it's probably the wettest I've ever been at a football match in Scotland.
I bet you weren't under the covers that night.
I bet you I wasn't. Absolutely horrendous. Absolutely horrendous. I was the supporters bus parked in the bus park, because at that time most of the buses parked in the bus park at Hampden.
Mm-hmm.
Parked in the bus park right outside Hampden. We were in the north stand, the uncovered north stand. And by the time we walked from the bus round the back of the west stand to the north stand, in those days I had a bit more hair. The hair gel was dripping down the face. I was absolutely soaking. To go in and have to stand in an open terracing, it was horrific. Absolutely horrific. And then 4.5 minutes into the game, the night even just got even worse.
I was waiting to say our old mate, Mr. Waddle, crops up again, Wolf, doesn't he?
Well, Davy Robertson sort of blows on Joe the dip, and Joe falls down like somebody shot him from the stand. You know, Mr. Waddle's got the card out while Joe's still in the air. You know what I mean? Red card for Davy Robertson, 4.5 minutes into the game. Just, even by today's standards, that was never a red card. I mean, VAR would check that from all angles. There's no way you get sent off for that, even today. No. You know, it was never. I mean, Davy Robertson says himself he was told to go out and, let Miller know he was there.
Yeah. And
they let him know he was there, and it wasn't anything really. You know what I mean?
No.
And we Joe, let's say, went down like somebody had shot him in the kneecap, and Waddle couldn't get the card out of his pocket quick enough.
No.
And we're all standing there absolutely soaking, abject, thinking, Scottish Cup semi-final, it's them. We've got 85 minutes to go with 10 men. This ain't going to end well.
No.
Shows how much we know about football.
And I think, Alan, Rolls just sums that up. A red card after, 4, 5, 6 minutes?
Yeah.
And the heavens, as Wolf is saying, is completely drenching them already. It doesn't look a good day, does it?
No, probably the last place you would want to be in the world is standing in Wolf's shoes that day. Soaking wet, a man down. We've just lost to Celtic a few days beforehand, a week and a half beforehand. And you're probably thinking the worst. If that happens this Sunday, we're thinking the worst, aren't we?
Yeah.
So, but, as Martin Tyler said in his commentary, never write off Rangers. Familiar name once again, Ali McCoist. I wonder whatever came of him. Ali McCoist getting the goal that put Rangers through to Scottish Cup final, knocking out the Celtic. What more can you ask for? I'd quite happily take that this Sunday. Absolutely.
And I'm just sort of seeing here in the notes, that was Waddle refereed the game at Parkhead as well.
Yeah.
No, Waddle refereed the previous game. St Johnson.
Yeah.
I was just going to say that you'd never get that now that he refereed his 2 games in 4 days. You would never get that now.
No.
Same referee, 2 games on the spin. You'd never get that now.
And he booked 10 players the weekend before.
Yeah, and both managers. You know what I mean?
So, I
And
mean,
of course, that Scottish Cup semi-final again, B Sky B coming up. So we're starting to see that familiar name creeping into football. 1992, yeah, when football began, wasn't it? That was the football wasn't played before 1992, was
Yeah,
it?
92-93 season was the first season of football in England. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. It just didn't exist before that, did it?
No.
But I mean, that was McCoy's 30th goal of the season, Wilf. It's I mean, 30 goals for any striker's a hell of a tall tally. Brilliant from him, wasn't it?
Yeah, it certainly was. What I didn't realise till I was just reading these notes here just now, just to go off on a tangent, it's the first goal we'd scored against them in the Scottish Cup since 1973. I mean, that's bonkers. That's nuts. I mean, the one in 1973 was an absolute peach as well. You know, come for safe from all of 6 inches. You know, but yeah, I mean, McCoy's scoring record. You know, as you say, Martin Tyler says, never write off Rangers. I mean, just.
And I'm actually amazed.
Sorry, Brian. McCoy's really is. He really is a kind of modern, not at that time, modern day true to life Roy the Rovers.
Yes.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
For the kids that don't
Everybody
know what
wanted to be
the Rovers is, ask your dad. Or in
Yes.
fact, ask your granddad. Your dad probably wouldn't even know. Ask your granddad.
But I mean, no, everybody wanted to be him at that time because he was the star man. And I just find it amazing that John Brown appeared to pull down John Collins in the box, and Mr. Waddle decided, no penalty. I'm absolutely gobsmacked at that.
Twitter? Could you imagine Twitter?
Oh dear, oh dear. But yeah, but of all people, Spackman got man of the match that night. You know, not Gorham for his heroics and goals or McCoist for the goal himself. It was Spackman, you know, so it must have been a right midfield battle in that middle of the park. Al.
Yeah, I noticed that as well. You know, obviously we've been down to 10 men for so long, we came under a bit of pressure. Gorham, you know, does what Andy Gorham does best. After a rocky start to Rangers, you know, he really came through and had, you know, had a great performance that day. But Spackman getting man of the match, you know, it must have been, I'm sure Wilf will be able to, I'll remember better than we will, but it must have been some battle in the middle of the park that day for Spackman to get it.
Yeah, but I think the game was a bit tells you that the conditions didn't help because the pitch was like a paddy field, you know. It was. I mean, you've got to see it to imagine the rain. The rain was just ridiculous. It was absolutely monsoon, you know. I mean, it's one of them. If I hadn't been on the telly, they might even have considered abandoning it, you know, because the ball was sticking. From what I remember, the ball was sticking in the water, and there's tackles flying in because they're going for a ball that isn't there because it hasn't moved, all that sort of stuff. Midfield was critical, and I mean, we just got a better grip of the midfield, and then McCoy's goal, and they probably should have had a penalty later on, but for some bizarre reason, Mr. Waddle went, "Nah, it's okay, I'm not giving it." You know, just a bizarre game of football. Just a bizarre game of football, which we came out on top of because the good guys always do.
But no, I mean, this is, as we've spoke about a few times, Alan, this is not exactly our favourite competition, the Scottish Cup. So to get a 1-0 win in the semi-final over themselves and, you know, get that hoodoo off the back as such and get us back into the cup final was a big moment for us, wasn't it?
Yeah, as you know, we've not always had the best of luck in the Scottish Cup. We seem to go through large spells not winning the Scottish Cup, despite the fact that it's such an important competition.
Yeah.
So to get into the final, to knock Celtic out, to get into the final, again, psychologically, we've used that word a few times tonight, would have been massive for the Rangers players. Ironic, isn't it?
I know, we're speaking about this.
That we're having this conversation 4 days before before we play them again in a Scottish Cup semi-final. So hopefully it's a good omen.
Yeah. I mean, were you feeling confident going into that game, Wilf? Going on the bus down?
Yeah, I was until Robertson got sent off. Then we just thought, but I mean, what sticks out for me with that whole campaign? The two things I remember about that whole campaign was obviously the red card in that game, and the fact that every single round we played Premiership opposition, all the way through, including the final. Okay, the final was only Airdrie; they were still a Premiership club at the time.
Yeah,
all the way through I mean, you know, the Rangers always get easy cup draws.
Yeah.
Playing teams in the same league as you in every single round, that's not an easy cup draw.
No.
You know?
Because you normally get a, second division team or, a first division
Well,
team somewhere, don't you?
You expect to get somebody
Yeah.
early doors. Okay, occasionally you'll get two top league teams playing each other in the third or fourth round or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
But then whoever wins that, generally speaking, gets some of the draws from the lower leagues in the next
Yes.
round. We had top league teams the whole way through, including in the final. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which was
It couldn't happen
get through it.
It couldn't happen very often. That's one thing for sure.
No, that's probably why I remember it. And I remember vividly all the time because people started going on not long after that, but we always get easy cup draws. And
Yes.
my go-to was, well, what about 90, 91, 92, when it was Premiership teams every single round, including the final?
Yeah.
Yep.
I think it's quite fitting that we're finishing that game with obviously things coming this weekend. So my thanks to Alan and my thanks to Wilf for that chat, and we'll hopefully now that we're back into the run of things, and we'll keep going, and we'll catch you all in the next episode. So thanks, guys. Cheers.
Thank you.
Cheers.